Welcome to Ready, Set, Vote, Ohio. I'm Kathy Johnston with COHHIO.
I'm Yvette Bethel.
Let's get folks in your agency, the people you serve, and the residents of your community registered and ready to vote. Be part of Nonprofit Voter Engagement 2016. Active voter participation builds healthier communities. People who vote are more likely to volunteer, advocate, or be more active locally in civic affairs. Voting is a way of connecting to and caring about our neighborhoods, our government, and the direction of public policy.
So why is it important that nonprofits get involved in voter registration and engagement? As nonprofits, we are trusted community messengers. We have reach into underrepresented communities, and we can provide the necessary personal contact that may spur folks to register and vote. Neighborhoods and communities that vote get more attention from candidates and office holders. They are less likely to visit and listen to communities that don't participate in elections. Voting allows us to support leaders who support issues we care about, like affordable housing, living wages, and healthcare. Nonprofits need to be at the table. Government funding can dramatically impact a nonprofit's ability to carry out its mission. Public policy and funding for housing, food assistance programs, child protection, curbing of infant mortality, and maintaining expanded healthcare and dental access, as well as issues related to youth and young adults, are all discussions in the public arena going on right now today.
As a nonprofit organization, the one rule is you cannot support or oppose candidates for public office. Also, you cannot endorse candidates or political parties, donate money or resources to candidates, or rate candidates on single issues. Just remember, stay nonpartisan. Even when people ask you, well, who should I vote for? I don't really know. You just say that that's up to them, and that's not something that you can advise. Before getting started with an agency plan, check with your agency director to ensure there are no prohibitions to voter engagement and solicit their support of the idea. Staff and volunteers are often point people for designing and executing the plan, but the activities are more likely to be carried out by an organization-wide if clear and strong support from your leadership.
When making a plan for voter registration, we recommend to conduct a voter registration drive a week before voter registration day, which this year is going to be held on September 27th. Some things to consider about making your plan. Timing. Set up a table in a central location for the duration of the week and plan a special event on National Voter Registration Day itself. You may prefer to do it at a time when more voters are around or around a major agency event. Don't bite off more than you can chew. What is your scope? Clearly define your audience. Do you want to target your agency board, staff, and volunteers, or expand to the community at large, particularly if you are a community-based agency, or do you want to do both agency and community? Again, don't bite off more than you can chew. If this is the first time in registering people to vote, perhaps you would want to start with a smaller scope like employees of the agency and volunteers of the agency. Staffing. Every voter registration drive needs a coordinator or staff team to run the activity. It could be a program or policy staff person, or just someone who ordinarily organizes staff activities. For staff and volunteers doing voter registration, it helps to have someone who is naturally outgoing and is passionate about voting. Now to the kickoff. A drive should start with an email to staff from the CEO or ED or senior staff 2 or 3 weeks before the drive begins, or it can be an announcement. Again, National Voter Registration Day will be September 27th. The link that you see on this slide is where you can go to sign up and receive free materials around voter registration. It's important that you get these materials ahead of time, or a lot more ahead of time than your events. Voter registration in Ohio is open until close of business October 11th this year.
Here are some suggestions on how to get people involved in voting in your agency. Determine the best way to outreach, like going from office to office or cube to cube. Staff meetings could be the best way to get the word out at your agency. Ask the director to send out a notice to all staff about voter registration and the deadline. Create visibility. Use posters, electronic message boards. Make election day an important day on your agency calendar. Create visibility in the staff or lunchroom or wherever people in your agency gather. Incorporate voter registration into your ongoing activities, such as your intake process, any classes that your agency would have, food or feeding programs, job trainings, or community events that your agency has planned.
All right, so to wrap up on planning, here's just a quick checklist for you all. Again, getting buy-in is important. Timing is important. Making a plan to determine the scope or the focus or target for the individuals you want to reach out to for registration. Assigning key staff members. Get registration forms and supplies ahead of time. And knowing the rules. And Kathy's going to go over some rules here.
If you're embarking on a voter registration drive in Ohio, once the forms have been completed, they must be turned in to the Board of Elections or an approved agency within 10 days from completion. We would also offer that you should not provide anything of value when registering people to vote, like balloons, sandwiches, donuts, coffee, anything at all, unless you are offering it to the entire agency. So you could set up a coffee for the entire day. Anybody can have it. Doesn't depend on whether or not they're filling out a voter registration form is the best way to go. Now here's a site for you to check out. It's called Nonprofit Vote. They have all kinds of materials and posters that you might be able to download and use at your agency. And here's their contact information.
All right, so now I'm going to go over some eligibility requirements here. And it's important to know these because you might be asked some questions as you're getting people engaged in registering to vote. So I'll just briefly go over who is eligible to register to vote in Ohio. In order to register to vote in Ohio, you must meet these requirements. You must be a citizen of the United States. You will be at least 18 years old on or before the day of the general elections. You will be a resident of Ohio for at least 30 days immediately before the election in which you want to vote. You are not currently in jail or in prison for felony convictions. You have not been declared incompetent for voting purposes by a probate court. You have not been permanently disenfranchised for violations of election laws. These 6 eligibility requirements can be found on the voter registration form and the voter registration brochure from the Secretary of State.
One of the questions that we get quite frequently is whether or not folks can vote once they re-enter from prison or jail. And the answer to that question is yes. In Ohio, all you have to do is re-register. Here's an information card from the American Civil Liberties Union on that provision about voting in Ohio. Just remember, with criminal history, yes, you can re-register and vote.
All right, and here's a glance at the voter registration card. Things to point out here and make sure that you look over once these are completed. You'll want to make sure that all the boxes are checked and correct dates are filled in. And please, please, please make sure that the form is signed.
Voter registration forms are available at the County Boards of Elections, Ohio Secretary of State, public libraries, public high schools, Bureau of Motor Vehicles, or Department of Job and Family Services, or your local office of the League of Women Voters. And these are also places where you can turn in completed voter registration forms. You cannot register to vote online in Ohio, as people may have paid attention to. The Ohio legislature passed a law that online voter registration is going to be available, but not until 2017. Voter registration forms for the November 8th general election are on paper. However, you can change your address online and update your information by going to myohiovote.com.
It's important that you all update your voter registration or check and make sure that your voter registration is updated. Voters often assume that if they registered once, then they never have to re-register, but that's not always true. For instance, if you move, you must update your voter registration if you have a change of address. Not only does this ensure you receive important updates from the Board of Elections, but it also helps make sure you cast your ballot in the correct precinct. Going to the wrong precinct may result in your vote not being counted. Also, if you change your name, anytime you change your name, such as with a marriage or divorce, you need to update your voter registration. This helps the Board of Elections to confirm your eligibility to vote because your registration matches a name in other government records. You can complete this change online, but the form must be printed and mailed in.
Recently in Ohio, there's been an updating of the voter registration rules, and a lot of people have been removed for inactivity. So we're going to suggest that you go to myohiovote.com, check your voter registration status, and if you've been removed from the rolls due to inactivity or because you've moved, you need to re-register. Thank you for joining us for Ready, Set, Vote in Ohio. And my contact information is here. If you have any questions, if I could be of help to you in any way, please give me a call. Thanks again.
Thank you.